If you are happy with your own family, then it is a test that you have made a better use of your habit. If you are restless or too busy and too crazy when you are at home, that means you are a thorough failure in understanding what education is and a thorough failure in making better use of habit. I take pride in expressing that we are brought up in such a family where my parents made the best use of habits upon us, and the result is experienced by us during about 35 years of family life. We had no occasion when we were unhappy with each other, and we are only happy and not otherwise. Same is the case with every traditional family of every backward country like India. I think let us take advantage of such branches of knowledge from the so-called backward nation and make the best use of habit. Then we can understand what liberation from self-conditioning is. The highest ideal of human living is what the scriptures say, liberation. They mean liberation from self-conditioning, and that can be achieved only by making the best use of the power of habit. Instead of trying to understand the many good things, instead of trying to discuss about the many good things in the world, and instead of burning all our time in conferences like this, if we try to put into practice what we are expected to do, that is our habit nature. Take only 2 or 3 or 4 principles and begin to put them in practice. Make it a habit and take advantage of the force of the habit and see what happens. The miracle happens. That is what is called transformation. Remember that the iron piece becomes a magnet, and it is only in the presence of another magnet and not at all in the presence of a big volume called magnetism. If you place an iron piece on the table and begin to rub it with a book on magnetism, it will be as much iron as it is even after 100 years. That's the result of trying to understand things and knowing philosophy and discussing about. Transformation never takes place by discussing things. By feeble, useless methods like comparing and contrasting, and the international educationalists gathering into seminars and discussing about many dirty things, nothing happens. The world remains as uneducated as it is, though literacy increases. We are trying to deceive the world by calling literacy education. Literacy is only a mechanical process. Education is something different. There may be an illiterate who is highly educated, who knows how to help you, who knows how not to harm you, who knows how to cooperate with you, and who knows how to do something helpful to himself and yourself. And still there are most uneducated brutes among the highly literates who discuss about international political situations and war and precipitate economic situations that are harmful to the common man and precipitate wars and destruction. So there are literates who are uneducated and illiterates who are highly educated, and we know them in definite terms very much every day. Let us try to distinguish between literacy and education. We can give value to literacy also, but let us give first preference to education than to literacy, so that we may not be idiots. And let us try to use the force of habit to make a magnet out of the iron piece. to effect transformation of the negative I am into the positive I am. This is what I understand by the force of habit, and if there is something to discuss about it, we can have any discussion or free question. Thank you all. Victim of life. Yes, the one effective habit that can be practiced and that can be called the aqua regia of all other habits is to select a piece of work in the day which involves service on the physical plane, trying to do something that is useful to someone on the physical plane, not the intellectual plane, and spending as much time as possible. It may be half an hour or 1 hour a day. That is the most effective habit forming effort that I know. It makes the required changes in everyone. One should submit himself to a piece of work which is useful to others, and the work should belong to the physical plane. That is, our body should be involved in it. That is my experience with the matter, because it minimizes thinking, and then thought is allowed as far as it is needed. Beyond that, thought is controlled by such a process. That is my experience. I think from this point of view, it is more fortunate to live in an unfortunate country like India, because we have much more scope to do such work. That is my experience with India also. Pardon? Poverty consciousness.
Poverty
Consciousness, yes. Yeah. I think there is no much effect of the stinginess or the poverty consciousness in the mind when an individual begins to approach individuals not representing any country or nation. Just if his mind approaches in an individual capacity, ignoring the identity, then that's the only way how to counteract the victim consciousness and the poverty consciousness also. For example, if I have an idea of an Indian or an American or a German, then there is a possibility of something working upon my mind. But if I make it a daily habit to do something useful to someone without having a concept of a poor man or a poor nation, etc., then it becomes easier. That's why in the spiritual practice we are expected to grow the awareness of God consciousness in the person to whom we are helping. That is, we are expected to remember God presence in the so-called poor person or inferior person, so that our complex of inferiority or superiority is wiped off. Otherwise, it is very difficult to erase from the mind the consciousness of the helper and the helped. So, the best thing is to practice the awareness of God presence in others, especially those who are weaker than ourselves, those who are less intelligent, less healthy and less strong than ourselves. That is how the scriptures prescribe us. little point supplementary to what you questioned. Whenever we help someone, there are two ways of understanding it. One is to try to help others. The other is to help himself. The scriptures teach us that doing a good thing is not for the benefit of others, because it will be automatically done by anyone if we do not do it. Someone does it better is always a truth. But when we happen to do it, we create an opportunity to make our senses and mind better. It has a purificatory value, and it is more for that purpose that we practice helping others. That is what the scriptures also teach us. If I want to practice helping others, I should not do it if I believe that others are being helped by it. I should do it if I sincerely believe that I am helped by it. So, doing good thing is purificatory in its primary value, and the mind and the senses become purer and purer of the complexes we have, because no education is available that can remove the complexes from our mind. And this is the only education we have on earth, that is to try to help others to purify ourselves. And to help others is only an instrumental value, because anyone does the same thing. If we do not do, another person does it better. If we do it, our vehicles are purified. That is what we have to understand about the right practice which can remove the complexes from the mind. And when we make it a habit, then the power of habit can be best utilized. Why can't you be selfish? Why it is bad to be selfish? First of all, try to explain me. It is a complex. It is a timidity to feel that we may be selfish, because we have to accept that we have selfishness, and we should be happy to accept that we have selfishness, because whether we accept it or not, it gives a greater pleasure to help others, and it is only for the pleasure of it we are doing it, and it remains to be a truth whether we accept it or not. So it is better to accept it. That's my conviction about the matter. When we are selfish, why can't we accept it? Then it goes away. I think, yeah, please. I think we will not be confronted by such questions when we choose to place ourselves as in a simpler society of a backward country, where we find less and less of complexes. That's the only thing we can do, because very easily we can find out what the other man needs when we go to a such country which we are proud to call backward. So we should take resort in a simpler society, and after some time, when the number of people who understand simplicity increase, we can find that the society in the advanced countries also becomes simpler. Until then, we have some difficulty in the so-called advanced countries. So, it is only the process of international brotherhood that helps us. Unless you are required, you cannot try to help anyone. That is always a fact. Place yourself in a society where you are required, and your sincerity brings people to you who require your help really. It is the instinctive human telepathy that establishes the contact between the helper and the helped. Beyond this, I cannot give you a better solution for the present. Yes. If you know that your love purifies you, it's no disqualification to your love. Okay? It gives you better taste. Anyhow, love manifests itself according to the degree of evolution in which we are. And evolution permits us to love as much as we can. And when once you begin to love the neighbor, it gives you pleasure. And it is an incentive and in no way a disqualification. Your love makes you do service without any intention or motive. And when you feel that you are satisfied, it's no disqualification either for your love or to your service. That is what I feel about the matter. And everyone is not fortunate to love his neighbor. When one comes to the stage of evolution enough to love his neighbor, automatically he feels the joy of it, and the result is service, which helps him purify his own vehicles. I think there is nothing that stops him from doing it when he realizes that his vehicles are being purified by service. Instead, it gives an impetus to his love nature also and purifies his love from the level of emotions to the level of devotion. That's what happens. It's no disqualification. Excuse me, I am not able to follow your question. Please repeat. Is it correct? Contraction aspect also in service, because contraction and expansion put together form what is called pulsation, and the formula of life is pulsation. For example, the heartbeat and the respiration. The mind also has its own nature of pulsation. Sometimes it expands and sometimes it contracts. And whenever we feel like helping our own people, it is the contracting aspect of love. And whenever we feel like helping someone who is in need, whom we do not know, it is the expansion aspect of love. And both are natural. That's what I feel after you have presented your question. So there is the contraction and expansion aspects to love also. No one of these two is negative, because help or service is never negative, it is positive. But the expressions of contraction as expressed in nerves and muscles, they are shown only when there is something suffering or negative. Whereas the expressions of expansion in muscles and nerves are shown only naturally when there is some experience of happiness. even medically speaking, when there is a happy experience, there is an expansion principle working in the tissues and the circulation in general. And whenever there is a negative aspect like fear or sorrow, there is a contraction principle working in the vascular system and the nervous system. Therefore, when I spoke about contraction and expansion in the beginning of the lecture, I spoke only about the facial expressions of a person and not the contraction or expansion applied to service or love. When applied to service, both the contraction aspect and the expansion aspect, they work as positive sides, positive aspects, and both the aspects give happiness to the person who helps, because doing service always makes one feel happy, that's all.